What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations. I'm having some fun this morning. I'm not bringing the right people up. Okay, there we go. There we go. It is Dr. Vibe here. I don't know what. I've been messing up the intros over the last few days. I guess taking that long break, I haven't always concerned about this, that, the other thing, but we are here. Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers and male caregivers that is sponsored by Doveman Plus Care, and being part of that team, reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And here he is, after putting on his foundation.
Right, yes.
You know you're dealing with
my lips aren't ashy.
You know you're dealing with a TV star. Oh, I've got to put on my foundation. And usually I hear ladies saying they got to put on their foundation. You're the first Black male I've heard. Oh, I got to get my foundation right.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Moving it out, guys. That's right.
Yeah, there we go.
And for those that do not remember who I am, my name is Ryan Knight, one of the co-founders of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network. We work with entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage, really to figure out what stage the business is in, and help them create a strategy to grow their companies exponentially. And I am an entrepreneur myself. I run a company called Detailing Nights. So we provide mobile waterless car cleaning. So we go to people's houses or their offices, clean their cars on the spot without using water, and our plant-based eco-friendly cleaning supplies. And I do want to thank those that joined us last Friday for the Detailing Nights hiring info session. So We're hiring for 4 positions: our detailers, area managers, marketing team, and customer service team. So there's about 77 people that registered and about 30 that were able to join us. So Looking forward to going through the training with them and seeing who's going to work with us in the summer.
Wow. You know, I just had another really great feeling. We started off and then all of a sudden, like a whole pile of people jumped in, which is good. That means notifications are working and people think we have some positive value. What was up over the weekend?
Yeah, this weekend, what was happening this weekend? I know Sunday was light, not much happening on Sunday. And then preparing for, I have to find my voter card to get ready to vote today. So looking forward to that, reading up on the past campaign promises and seeing where people are landing. But the weekend was nice, and just detailing when the sun is out, it's go time. So loving the weather. And today is going to be another great one too. So that was great. How about yourself? How's the weekend?
Yeah, it was, well, I did a show Friday morning, Saturday afternoon, 2 yesterday at 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., another show today, and it looks like, I messaged you last night, I don't know if you can make it, but it looks like I'm going to jump in at 9 p.m. this evening and just give some takes on today's election. And Cesar Nadima Musa is going to jump in with me. Maybe Wayne Harris, if you're available, we'd love to have you come on and give your takes on the election. And I hear you. Yesterday, I went out to a local mall, and I spent time trying to find a parking spot.
Ooh.
Driving around, have my window down, and this guy goes, "Yeah, man, you think it's Christmas or something?" I go, "No, the sun's out."
Yeah, people want to get out their house.
So that was really good. Had a major win for me. There's been a software I've been trying to figure out for the longest period of time, and it wasn't working properly. And Cesar was a little bit delayed getting on for Black Canada Talking yesterday. He said, "You know what? Let me just go online and put the right prompt and see if I get an answer." Within 10 minutes, bam, I said, yes. When you least expected, this challenge got results. So that's going to improve my productivity. I can do more on my main computer, which is absolutely amazing. And yes, got a vote today.
Yes.
Thank goodness the voting place is only like it's 5 minutes, a 4 minutes walk.
Oh, nice. And also shout out to Daniel Francavilla. He has a nonprofit called Access Charity, and they were doing their pitch on Saturday.
I saw that.
So I got to be on the panel with my boy T by Daniel, who all three of us really grew up in Brampton, starting our business around the same time.
And you can't let go of the Northwest Territories, right?
Yeah, definitely still connected. So yeah, I'll just shout out to them and the participants that pitched and the winners that got selected. So congratulations to them.
Good stuff. Yeah, really. A lot of stuff went on this weekend, but just that win of getting that software. Yes, I wasn't able to use it on my main computer. I figured it out. I said yes, and then I got an email this morning from an organization with 50 AI tools that are free that I can use, and then I've also been working on another thing in regards to AI that I'm gonna. Yeah, this week I'm gonna put it out and say, hey, what do you think, family? What do you think? So I'm looking forward to that. But we're going to go to break fairly quick today because we have a new friend on today. And we spoke on Saturday. It was on Saturday. And he said he was having a day. And he said, you know what? I'm really happy we had this conversation. It brought me a lot of good energy. And there's a pile of people jumping on, which is I wonder if this because it's an election day in Canada. And we're going to be talking about the election. Hint, hint. This is our main topic of conversation today. But yeah, so let's go for a break. And we're going to go in on the Canadian election with a young gentleman who wrote an amazing article about it, especially if you haven't voted yet and if you have voted. So we're going to be back in about a minute. And if you're hungry, this is up your alley.
Five Blacks Restaurant Week, an amazing week, a flavorful week. We are eating good.
It's a national campaign created to promote Black-owned Canadian cuisine, food trucks, pop-up kitchens, and chefs.
Go out, taste the food, enjoy it, and get to know us and to get to know our culture.
Puts the spotlight on Black-owned dining establishments right across the country, not just here.
Otherwise known as Oxtail Week.
Report will be due.
All right. So, family, Buy Blacks Black Restaurant Week happening from Monday, May 12th to, I forgot the 2025, to Sunday, May 18th, 2025, aka known as Ryan's Oxtail Week.
The Oxtail Hunter.
Oxtail Hunter.
Yes.
Yes. So, check it out. I want to show it correctly. I forgot that. And I want to represent Camille and Roger properly. So let me do it properly. I don't want to get them upset. So there we go. This is proper. May 12th, 2025, May 18th, 2025. There's the link. Check it out. I'll be sharing it also on the comment section on most of the platforms I'm broadcasting this live on the replay on. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Hit the notification button. We have hit 1,790 subscribers. Yes, yes, yes. So you know what's next, family? 1,800.
Boom. Keep pushing. Yes.
Let's keep pushing. If you're up to it, subscribe on YouTube or tell someone about it if you already have. Subscribe on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Join the Discord group. Email me dr@ at the drvibeshow.com or click on that link. Advertise your business product or service. Email me dr@vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Indie Soup Media, can't forget that. Our good friend Dr. Tachi out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. YouTube channel of independent content creators that has over, I think they're now at 26,000 subscribers in over a year. And again, think about it, family. How many Black YouTube channels that have over 26,000 subscribers? And we got the entertainment stuff, but she's done it independently. And only 4% of all YouTube channels have over 10,000 subscribers. Who we have today? This gentleman is named Marcus Medford. He's a third-generation Canadian with roots from Jamaica and Trinidad. Trini in the house. Trini. And he's a Toronto-based freelance journalist who's worked with CBC, BuyBlacks.com, CTV, New Canadian Media. Okay, that's where I met him first. We met a number of years ago at a New Canadian Media event. Yes. I remember him coming up to me. We had a conversation in other publications. He's also a poet who goes by the name Mars the Poet. and the author of The Book of Mars. So you see that he's into that Mars thing. And why do we have him on today? Well, he has written an article that is very apropos for especially today. And we got it from buyblacks.com saying, who should I vote for in the 2025 federal election? Those are the two front runners. And we have Marcus on today with us to share for a few minutes. So welcome to the stage, Marcus Medford. How are we doing?
I am very well. Thank you for having me. It's good to see both of you. And yeah, I know that I met both of you a couple of years ago, and it's crazy to think about how long it's been, because it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
Yeah, and for anyone that sees all the branding or the style that ACBN, the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, looks like, it is actually because of Marcus working with his mother Nakembe. They worked on our brand guide and our whole marketing strategy 6-7 years ago, and it's still going strong. So I want to thank you for that, brother.
It is. It was really great working with you, and I think like every time I see notifications from you or like the post on LinkedIn or I'm like, yes, like it's great to see. It's great to see. I love it. Very
nice. Just before we jump in, I noticed there's a third person missing in your breakdown. So NDP, Jagmeet Singh, do they have no chance, or is it?
Okay, hold on. You're already jumping into the thing.
They're missing. No, we put up who should we vote for, and he's missing. So I'm curious, is that just like a lost cause?
I will say personally, like article aside, I am one of the things that I've disliked about how the conversation has gone is that it has been such a binary choice that that from right out of the gate it's. And as someone who works in the media, like the framing of it, that it is Mark Carney versus Pierre Poilievre. These are the only two who have a realistic chance. So there was part of that. And part of that is also just a response to the polls. Like when you're seeing that a majority of people's attention or voting intention is going towards the two candidates, really taking more time to scrutinize and look at what they're saying, what their plans are, makes more sense. I will say, like, not to get too into the weeds of it, but one of the things that I hear from Jagmeet Singh and from other NDP MPs and like NDP strategists when I listen to political podcasts, because that's something I do very often. Nice. But one of the things that they will say is that when it comes to the NDP, a lot of the NDP MPs have good relationships with their community, so that they're able to connect with people in a different kind of way, and people really support them. So the people that know them already know them, and it's not necessarily there. I mean, obviously they want to get as many seats as possible and get as many votes as possible, but one of the things they see maybe as more of a key to success is to focus on the place where they already are strong. And I know one of the things that, I mean, I say I saw because like looking at the election as opposed to not following it closely, but for people who were following it closely, the Ontario election that was just 2 months ago. But one of the things that people were saying is that that the NDP got less votes than the Liberals, and they got less votes than they got in the last election, but they were still able to retain a majority of the seats that they had and still able to be the official opposition in Ontario. So that kind of speaks to having a better ground game and knowing where the places they need to hit and where the places that they're the strongest. And that's something that they're doing. Like a lot of what Jagmeet Singh has been doing in the last week, but also throughout the campaign, he spent a lot of time in BC, where a lot of the NDP caucuses, and spent time in like places in Southern Ontario, where some of the places that are most trade affected, because that is one of the big issues that's driving the conversation. So It's not that I think that the NDP have no chance and I don't think that they deserve more attention, because I do personally think that they do deserve more attention. But I think that if you're voting, I think that if you're considering NDP or you're voting NDP, that kind of decision is already kind of locked in, where if more people are hopefully paying attention and looking at what's going on, looking at the two front runners and what they're promising, and also because this is their first federal election campaign. Was around in 2021 and in 2019, so people are maybe more familiar with him and more familiar with his party, whereas Mark Carney's Liberals are different than Justin Trudeau's Liberals. And
Pierre says they're not, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yes, and it's. I mean, before getting into more of Pierre and what other people are saying, is when Pierre does say that, yes, there are a lot of people in Mark Carney's cabinet before Parliament was, or before the election was called, that were NPs and cabinet ministers in Justin Trudeau's cabinet. But there's only a certain pool of Liberal MPs, so it was very likely that people from the old cabinet would be in the new cabinet, and it just would make sense for continuity and having those relationships. So yes, there are people, I think it's 87% of the cabinet is the same, but realistically there is no other way it could be different. You could create, I mean, if Mark Carney were to win and make a new cabinet, and that cabinet is again 87% the same, and there was a new pool of Liberal MPs to choose from, that I think would be something that is a more legitimate criticism than some of the things that he has been saying, in terms of saying that he's just like Justin.
All right, I'm gonna jump because there's a pile of people in here, so I'm looking for engagement all over the place. C Nurse K says, morning all, heading out to vote right now. Scott Greaves says, Canada is Hudson Bay, and Carney is an appointee trustee chosen to handle liquidation. Carney for the win. And good morning. Roger Dundas says, good morning, everyone. And thank you to Roger and Camille for introducing us to, on screen, to Marcus. And you know me, with all the people that are here, I got a poll coming up right now. So let's see if I can put it up here. All right. If you are following this on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel, what party do you think will win to the most seats in today's election? 1, enter Liberals. 2, enter Progressive Conservatives. 3, not sure. We're polling in real time. All right. So we'll keep everyone up to date on this. So a little bit about the article. Hold on a second. We got another comment here. Catch my drift. Pierre Poilievre has my vote. And Wayne Harris says, good morning. Miss Harris says, good morning, gentlemen. Medford is Bayesian? No.
Trinity and Jamaican. I love Bayesian.
Okay. All right. So let me ask, what inspired you to write this article at this particular moment in Canada's political landscape?
I think one of the things I think about, like I'm 31, and I think that, I have a decent amount of friends that are journalists in journalism, but for a lot of my friends who are not in journalism, I am one of the few journalists that they do know. And I think, like, as we were talking about as the article looks at the platforms, I have been, like, part of my job is to watch the speeches, watch the Q&As that happen after, again, as I mentioned, listening to podcasts. So like I'm somewhat more plugged in to what's going on in politics than some of the people like in my life and in my social circles. So to be able to compile all of the things that I've heard and break them down and lay them out is something that I do enjoy doing. I think that, it's always said that the election, whatever level it is the most consequential one of our time. And I think that this is probably a time where it does feel very true with what's going on in the States. And I think, like, what's going on in the States is definitely very important. It's a huge part of what's going on, and that's undeniable. But I do think that some of the other things that are going on, like housing, like affordability, like polarization, and the way that people feel about politics and how they respond to politics, how they engage with politics, and how they engage with each other based on the politics that they have. I think that those are things that are also really important to look at. When I posted about this recently, I was saying that I really wanted to reject the framing and the idea of this election being a vibes election, and that it's really kind of based on what you feel, and you should make your decision on who do you think is best to stand up to Donald Trump. When I've kind of described it to friends, the way that I've kind of thought about that argument and that framing is it's kind of like my dad can beat up your dad kind of thing, and it's just like it's an irrational and irrelevant kind of thing. Like, your dads are probably never going to fight each other. Like, you don't really know how that would go.
Isn't it tough when like the neighborhood bully is literally knocking at your door? So don't you feel that emotional response is difficult to just push to the side and say, like, you know what, even though the bully's outside, I'm still going to do my math homework and figure out how to cut costs for the economy. You know, like, it's something that becomes instinctive.
It you know what, and I think I think that's very true. It is this situation, and all situations are very emotional, and they are partially rational, and they are partially emotional. But I think that one of the reasons why I wanted to present this article, and I'd like to think that kind of the way that I'd like to approach journalism more generally, is drawing more attention to the rational arguments, and to the rational arguments, to the points. This is what's said, this is what works, so that you don't give too much space to the emotion. I think especially because we're in an election campaign, like there are volunteers and campaign strategists and whole teams who are meant to manipulate people's emotions and work with things with people's emotions. And not, if you're not careful, you'll get swept up in that. It's like, but yes, you could very well get swept up on that. But when you're making that emotional decision, I think that you also need to think about what's actually going on, and how realistic is something, how aligned is what someone's saying and what someone's promising with what they've said or done in the past, or what they've stood for, or what's worked or what hasn't worked. So I think that those things should be given equal weight. Yeah, I think they should be given equal weight. And again, I think because the situation is so big, like I think in Ontario, there was a projection that 500,000 people could lose their jobs depending on how the trade war goes. It's like, that's huge. And a decision like that should not be made solely based on emotion. And again, because the election campaign is, I think, like 35 days. So it's like, what's that, 5 weeks? Paying attention to what's going on within a 5-week period is different than paying attention to what's been going on through like a multi-month period. And with Mark Carney, you can really only go back to January. But still, I think paying attention to all of that, as opposed to paying attention to a short, concentrated thing that's meant to be, I mean, all politics is at some level manipulative, but the election campaign specifically, very manipulative. So I think laying out more of the factual things that are going on and more of the platform is something that I wanted to do and felt like it was important.
All right, just want to jump in here with some comments. Nufono Fernandez says, can't afford the Liberals. Pierre has to cut more in year 5. My drift. Okay, hold on. Chris Rose says Liberal policy regarding crime most impacts the urban community. And then Catch My Drift says, has Marcus read Carney's book Values?
I have not. I haven't read the book Values. I've in reading about the article, and again, because Pierre Poilievre has a longer political career, like looking at the articles, looking at policy announcements, recalling things that I've heard him say in different speeches and question period and whatnot. But for Mark Carney, having to look at what people have said about the book, people who have read the book, their analysis of it, some of the philosophies and intentions that went into the book, that was something that I did look into a little bit. Like I know that he kind of outlines his climate philosophy and how that relates to the economy very much in that. And I think that he also talks about the role that he thinks government should or could play in people's lives. But no, I can't say that I have actually read it.
Okay. From your lens, what are the important issues for Black Canadians in this federal election?
I mean, I think affordability. I think affordability is the big one, and I think that, like, I know that touches on a lot of things, but I think that when it comes to your ability to have a good and stable job, and the security that can create around you, when it comes to rent or mortgages, and having the government in some way do something to affect that, so that you're able to use more of your money towards things that are more productive to you or benefit you or your family more. I think that when it comes affordability, when it comes to education, if you're thinking about sending your kids to school, or if you're someone who's like around my age and maybe thinking that the career path that I'm on isn't quite working for me, I might want to take some time off to learn something new. If the cost of education is lower and the cost of everything is lower, it's easier to make that kind of decision because you have the kind of financial security in order to make that decision. That is something that I would be thinking about. I think that's the affordability in that sense is something big. I think crime as well. In terms, like, I know that one of the things that Pierre Poilievre is pledging is in the kind of tough on crime mantra. And I think one of the things he's talked about is like mandatory minimums when it comes to certain kinds of crimes. And I think that if something like that is going to be implemented, for example, what are the implications for Black people? Because we know that the crime rate and like the rate of people that are sent to jail, it's higher for Black people than it is for other segments of the population. So if we're going to go ahead with something like that, how would that impact the Black community? So that would be something that I would be thinking about.
And I saw out of Poilievre's mouth something around the 3 strikes idea coming back, and I was like, wasn't that a failed experiment in the US? I was kind of shocked they would go with that wording, but I was curious your thoughts on, I don't know if you ever watched Futurama.
Yes.
There's always the joke where the 2 candidates are twins, and it's like they're arguing against each other on different sides, but they're like the same person. That's what I'm starting to feel like with this election, because Carney is very conservative. Like, if you're heading a bank and running the governor of UK, you already have that conservative edge to you. And I feel like Poilievre is like arguing with himself. And like the biggest thing he tried to do was attack him about the carbon tax, and then Carney cut the carbon tax. What are your thoughts on like politics now just becoming like really 2 sides of a similar coin, like us being able to choose who to vote for when they both sound very similar?
I think I do. And I think to the point of putting the article out and then actually looking at some of the platforms and hearing other people who are more knowledgeable than me about the specific things, like housing, for example. Like I was watching a video last night and someone was saying that the Liberals' plan and the Conservatives' plan are very similar in terms of, like, I think initially Mark Carney, the housing plan was only supposed to cover houses up to $1 million, but then He moved it up to 1.5, and I think that the Poilievre's was initially 1.3, and then it moved to 1.5 as well. So, and even if it didn't, like, I know that 1.5 to 1.3 is a big difference in terms of money, but it's not hugely different. When you look at who the housing plan, for example, or the tax cuts, who those people would benefit, it's like they would benefit the same group of people. And I think that one of the things they've talked about their tax cut plans is who would benefit more first. Because I think that with the Conservatives' plan, I think that in the first couple of years, more people would benefit from the tax cut. But the way the Liberals' plan is, when you get to year 4, you get to year 5, it ends up being around the same thing. So
Gotcha. And this is where what might, I would say, put Liberals ahead is the fact that they cut the carbon tax and people saw gas prices drop.
Yeah.
So visually, it was something that they were able to do to show immediate savings on the cost of living.
Yeah.
It's tough. And that's where the incumbent typically gets that added advantage, because the Conservatives can talk all they want, but there's nothing that they can put into play that would give people a visual, immediate relief. Liberals can play with stuff to see, okay, this is something we can do right away.
And I think, but like before going into that, I think that to the point of what you were saying with the Twins and having similar kind of plans and again, a difference between the Liberals' plan and the Conservatives' plan when it comes to housing is that the Liberals' plan is for first-time home buyers and the Conservatives' plan is for anyone. It doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer.
Gotcha.
But those plans are largely geared towards housing, like housing in terms of home ownership, properties, mortgages, land, and whatnot. The NDP, and as far as I know, there is no real plan in their platforms that addresses housing when it comes to rentals. The NDP's does.
Oh, gotcha.
And so the whole twin thing is just kind of like this kind of housing, this kind of housing, this kind of housing. But what about this kind of housing? It's like that's the NDP is like the cousin. I guess would be the cousin in the situation where it's like you're related, you're talking something similar, but it's not quite the same. And I do agree that the Liberals are able, they do have an advantage, because I mean, on the one hand, they have a 10-year record that can be argued against, but they do also have 10 years worth of things to show that, like, there are definitely missteps that have happened along the way, but there are also things that they have been able to do that people are in favor of or have been able to see the benefit of, and they can point to that and be like, you know what, I like that. And the Conservatives aren't able to do that in the same kind of way because it's been so long since they've been in power. And I know that there's definitely been things that the Conservative and Liberals have been able to pass together. But I think that again, when we're talking about the NDP and the difference of their kind of strategy, they're able to point to pharmacare, and they're able to point to dental care, and they're able to point to the work that they were able to do with the Liberals through the supply and confidence agreement to get like childcare done, for example. So even they have that example or that advantage to draw on, whereas the Conservatives don't necessarily have that. And again, when it comes to the advantage, the fact that Mark Carney and the MP, the people who are sitting MPs or hoping to be MPs later, they are the ones that are cabinet ministers. They still are cabinet ministers. They still have a role to play, and they if there is some kind of financial issue and Dominic LeBlanc has to do something, it's like that is something that he's able to do that no other Conservative is able to do.
Exactly.
And
all right, I'm going to politely jump in because I know Marcus's time is limited, but we have a whale of comments, so I want to see if I can get to them right quick. Chris Rose says, every time a young black man gets involved with violent gun crime, it's a travesty to the young black male because the Liberal government fails to do anything to help the urban community. A prime example of this is the Indian student who got killed by a stray bullet, and
the 15-year-old
youth who got killed by the police. And just quick aside, myself and Ryan's condolences to those who lost their lives in that tragedy in Vancouver this weekend with the Filipino community. Very, very sad. Food Plane says, have I not checked yet? Did the election happen? It's happening today in Canada, so you're not too late. Chris Rowe says, had we better gun laws regarding gun smuggling and better tech at the border, maybe that youth would not have had a firearm. The Walamala says, two wings of the same bird, talking about the parties. Chris Rowe says, obviously he's not a fan of Mr. Carney. Says, Carney cut it pre-election. Catch My Drift says, Polyev has argued against the carbon tax since day one. Carney is very much for carbon taxes and has been for years. Christo says Carney is not a bank teller banker. He's a globalist bankster. Look at what the World Bank and IMF has done to other countries in the world. Matthew Peters says the NDP party is finished. Catch My Drift says Carney only removed them before the election for more votes. He absolutely plans to add more taxes and charges for them. All right, before we get back to Marcus again, if you're watching this on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel, we are running a poll. So, who do you think is going to win the most seats in today's election? 1, enter Liberals. 2, enter Progressive Conservatives. 3, enter Not Sure. So far, most of the votes that are put are saying the Conservatives. Interesting.
I added my vote for the Green Party.
Well, you did that on your own platform.
They were also excluded from this article.
Yes.
And snubbed from the debate. They're just getting...
I think so. I think that I have more to apologize than the debate commission because the Green Party mess up their whole application and whatnot. But I think, and I know this wasn't something that was asked, but I think that kind of on that note, I think that if we had a different electoral system, then I think that it would make more sense to give them more coverage because voting for them would have a different kind of impact. Again, I think because a lot of the work that I do, like not the freelance, I mean, all the work that I do is freelance, but the work that I do for CBC and CTV, a lot of that is national coverage. So it's kind of looking at the picture for the whole country. And like, you can't really get too specific about something that's going on in a certain place, unless we're talking, like as Dr. Vibe was mentioning, the situation in Vancouver, which is something very specific. But when it comes to a national thing, you don't have as much time, so you kind of have to paint a broad picture. Whereas I think that if I was working at a local news station or in a local newsroom that was looking at Hamilton or Kitchener, Kitchener would be a great example. I think that covering the Greens more seriously makes more sense in Kitchener because I believe that the Ontario Green MPP is from Kitchener, and yeah, so I think that would make more, excluding them from the coverage would, I think, be more of a disservice and would be a more inaccurate picture of the political landscape. But I think that on a national scale, when you look at things, it's
and I feel like
it's unfortunate.
They're more of a lens that all political decisions should be seen through. It's almost like an Instagram filter. Like no matter what decisions are being made, it should have an environmental lens to it. Them as their own party and trying to win individual seats, they should have been able to grow at least more than they have so far. So I feel like them positioning themselves as the environmental filter that we are going to base all decisions on would be a better approach. And an NDP, same, heart and soul. It's like the filter that all decisions should be made is how it's going to impact people and make our lives better. That should never be discounted,
And I think that it's unfortunate for the Green Party that that Justin Trudeau's version of the Liberals was so climate forward and so climate focused, and that making environmental issues and making the carbon tax a mainstream idea and making it not as popular as I would like it to be, but
We're like trending in the right direction.
yeah, and so because they did that, the conservatives, like, because I remember, and I think it was in the last election, I think that one of the main criticisms against the conservatives is that they didn't have a climate plan, and that they didn't explicitly say that climate change is real, it is a problem, we need to address it, and then afterwards the conservatives like, we can't completely ignore this, and because the conservatives are paying more attention to it, the liberals are paying more attention to it, it's like the NDP wants to stay relevant in the conversation. I mean, the NDP I think was already more aligned with climate and environmental type policies anyway, but they have to also elevate them more, because and I mean, as we were talking about, like with business and marketing, it's like it's your unique, the Green Party has lost their unique selling proposition because everyone else is also focusing on climate issues.
And that's what happens when, because the Greens like to lecture, and then when people say, "Yeah, you're right," and they're like, "Oh, yes, thank you," it's like there's like the debate's over. Like, we agree with you.
Yes, yes. It's and if I was Elizabeth May, or I would say if I was Elizabeth May, like if she doesn't get her seat and there's no Green MPs in the House of Commons, but there is more of an environmental focus and an environmental lens that is taken to policy and is in the back of politicians' mind when they're making decisions, and in the back of voters' minds when they're talking about what it is they want.
Right.
Is that a win or not? And I would say it depends on what your goal is, because I think that if politics and politics and parties exist to win, then you've lost. But if your goal is to advance a policy, and I say agenda without being an agenda, like to advance an agenda forward, that might be a good thing. And to go back to something that you were saying earlier with the NDP and them kind of being squeezed out of the conversation. I have heard people say that they, and I mean, Jagmeet Singh also said it, I think sometime last week, that he didn't want to he didn't want to topple the government earlier, like sometime last year, when it would have been more advantageous to his party, because that would have almost guaranteed a pure poly of majority. And that's something that he fundamentally doesn't like. Right. Ideologically doesn't like, and he thinks that it would be bad for the people that he supports and support him. And the other thing that he was saying with that argument is, like, part of the reason that I didn't pull the plug earlier is because if I did do that, then the benefits that I was able to get from the supply and confidence agreement to be able to move pharmacare forward, to be able to move dental care forward, would not be able to happen. And that, and I think one of the arguments he said is that if these things come in place now and they become legislation, it will be more difficult for anyone to come afterwards and take that away. Right. So it might be the case that he very well might lose his seat.
Yeah, he may lose his seat too.
He could lose his seat, and if he loses his seat, then it's very likely that he will not go on to be leader. Right. But you can objectively say that the things that you wanted to do and put forward were able to get forward, and they were able to make a difference. Right. So at the end of the day, how happy are you? What are you happy with? And what are your supporters happy with? Because there will be some people who will be like, the NDP, it's like, you guys, Jagmeet Singh, this is your third federal campaign. You've been leader for a long time. Why don't you have more seats? And there's some people say it's like, you know what, you were a leader for this long and you were able to do this, this, and this. And I don't know.
I don't want to interrupt you too, because I know you got to go right quick. So I want to do some quick comments and one or two questions. So Walamala says Carney has momentum. He won't call election if he didn't think he had a reasonable chance of success. Wayne Harris says guns on the street and the use of them is a symptom of social economic cause. He also has two quick questions for you. One, he says, I read the article. The Liberals get a nostalgic nod from our community due to Trudeau Sr. It doesn't make sense. Does either party have a mandate for the Black environment? Because I don't use that word. C word.
I do definitely agree with the first thing. Like my mom's dad, who passed away, oh my gosh, like eight years ago now, or 6 years ago. But he was someone who was very much like I came here during Trudeau's senior era. Like that's when I came. And I don't think that he was I think that there are some people who are strict liberal loyalists, and it's like no matter what's going on, it's like that's who I'm going with. And I think that there are some people who are maybe more liberal leaning, where it's like that's their default, and it's like I'm going to look there first, and if I don't like what I see, or if I see or hear something else that is appealing, like I'll give that attention. But my home base is the Liberals, and I know that there was a conversation about the Liberals being seen as the natural governing party of Canada. So I think there is part of that. The second part of the question about does either I don't think that any of the parties have a specific plan.
Yeah, the only thing I've seen from any of the parties, because Cesar Nadima Musa will be with me tonight, saying the Conservatives don't believe in equity, diversity, inclusion. So the Liberal Party, the only thing I've seen, and Ryan, you can back me on this, they propose making the Black Entrepreneur Program permanent and wanting to dedicate $140 million to that plan. That's the only thing I've seen targeted at Black Canadians, nothing else.
And that's where when Wayne Harris is saying it doesn't make sense, it does make sense, because when something
you want to get in an argument with Mr. Harris,
what happens, like people, and I've been a critic of this too, it's like, okay, the Liberals, we have this nostalgia vote, but then if they're the only party that has an actual plan to realize the UN Decade of African Descent, created the Supporting Black Communities Initiative, created the Black Entrepreneurship Program, I was fully waiting and ready for the Conservatives to say, you know what, we acknowledge the Black community and we can support the Black, but they didn't.
Okay, so now, I'm going to cut you right quick so you and Wayne can continue after Marcus leaves. Last question from Marcus. Wayne Harris says, what do the number of Blacks look like in all political parties? Are there a lot of Black Canadians running?
Oh, and it's I would like to be able to answer this question better, and I think to what I've been saying about one being in national news, but also I think the way that we, and I say we in terms of the media, but also in terms of people, I think that the way that we talk about and frame political conversation isn't helpful, because we're looking at this as Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre and Jagmeet Singh and Yves-François Blanchet and Jonathan Petteneau and Elizabeth May. Like we're looking at this as a battle of the leaders, as opposed to looking at it individually as like who are the candidates from each party in certain areas. So I have all that I have heard about most of the candidates from the parties are the ones that have had issues, the ones that have been kicked out, or the ones that are some of the ones that are in tight riding. So like the only Black people who I know are running are the Black MPs who were sitting, who said that they were, like, I know that Marcy Ian is not running again.
Yes.
I know, like we mentioned, Matthew Green is. Kayla, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but she's she took over from Marcy. I believe that she is the MP from London.
Yes.
There. Leslie Lewis is still around. Hetty Fry, I believe, is still going to be there. Emmanuel Dilberg from the Liberals, he's not going, but it's like, so there's not a lot. And because I have looked into this before with previous articles, a majority of the Black people who have been sitting politicians have represented the Liberals. It's usually, like, I think that the Liberals are about half. And then the NDP would be around like 30%, and then the Conservatives are around 2%. In Ontario, there are more Black. I mean, Ontario, we don't need to talk about Ontario, but yeah, there's not a ton. Like, I think one of the things I had said in an article at one point is that, like, I knew 20% of the Black MPs in the House of Commons. Someone's like, oh wow, and I'm like, it's like 6 people. it's like 6 or 4 people. It's not a lot of people. There's really not a lot of us.
I think I heard a notification on your phone, and I know you've got to run. I think it was on your phone. Look, first of all, thank you for taking the time. I'm going to message you to see if you're available this evening, because you said you may or may not be available. And definitely want to have you back, because your political insight, especially from your age group, is something that's critical for the success of all Black Canadians, and in fact of all Canadians. So I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to hang out with us morning, especially on a very busy day for you.
Very exciting.
I'd love to have you back. And if people want to get a hold of Marcus, there he is on Instagram, Mars the Poet. And looking forward, and so we're going to see you later.
Yes, I will just a correction. In fact, the Mars the Poet, that is my actual Instagram account. They got hacked a month ago. So I'm still looking to get access to it back. Like the Instagram that I'm using now is Under the Sun Mars. But
okay, hold on. I'll change that. I'll change that right now in real time to make sure you're represented properly. Under the Sun.
Yes.
Mars. Okay, let me say. All right, let's see if I've got you correct. So when I share it out with everybody, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. I know what one of the things I would love to do, not asking anyone to do this, but for me, I'm trying to shame Instagram into giving me my account back, because they've just been Ryan talking about customer service and like how you're supposed to respond to people. 48 hours is acceptable. 72 if I'm being generous.
Yes.
It's been more than 2. It's almost been 2 months, and I haven't been able to get anything from anyone. So
all right.
Yeah.
We'll chat with you later. Thanks for everything. You take care and be well.
Have a wonderful day. Get out there and vote if you have not already. Love you guys.
All right. Take care. Be well. Let's see. So let's cover some things today. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Yes, we are finally at 1,790 subscribers. We need now to get to that 1,800. Yes, 1,800. So if you haven't subscribed on the YouTube channel and you're up to it, love you to do that. Refer other people to the channel. Also follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Join the Morning Vibe group on Discord. Email me dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com, or click on the link that you have or you're seeing on the screen, and also put on the chat on most of the platforms of mine that you're watching this on. To advertise your business product or service on any of the platforms, please email me dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. Don't forget Buy Black's Restaurant Week, Monday, May 12th, 2025 to Sunday, May 18th. And there's the link you need to check it out on. We have anything else? Yeah. Why don't we do this? Actually, I'm looking for something and I don't see it. Where did it go? There we go. Oh, can't forget also buyblacks.com. Check them out. Black Canada's #1 online magazine, buyblacks.com website. Just wherever you go online, just put in Buy Blacks or buyblacks.com. They're Google-licious. You can catch Ryan O'Neill Knight, and that's with a K-N, not an N, RyanO'NeillKnight.com, LinkedIn, Ryan O'Neill Knight, Instagram at Ryan.Knight99, and work with me at Ryan O'Neill Knight, email address. Also, website, thedrvibeshow.com for me. Also, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show. Instagram at The Dr. Vibe Show. That's DR, not DOC, DR. X at Dr. Vibe Show, DRVIBESHOW. Email dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow. You can also catch me on Substack at drvibe.substack.com/subscribe, and also on Blue Sky at drvibe.bsky.social. And finally, you can watch replays of this epic conversation at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, Afro-Caribbean Business Network on Facebook, and Ryan O'Neill Knight on YouTube. We have 2 more comments. We're going to get them in. Actually, one. Cha Yin Lin. Hope for change for conservative or stay the same with liberal government as Trudeau's one. Okay. I don't know exactly what that means. You're saying you want both sides of the coin. All right. Let's finish it off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller, get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger Aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. If you're not, also, if you're not managing your time, manage your energy. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both. And then finally, make it better. Thank you for an amazing conversation. So tonight, 9 p.m., we'll be talking about the election as the results come in. This Friday, Wayne Harris is with us. So I'm sure he's going to give his take, if not tonight, but certainly by Friday, on the Canadian election and the impact on Black Canadians, especially economically. Also seeing if I can get one or two other people to join him, but we'll see what happens. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith and walk good.
This whole thing of using your business with plant-based products, don't you think your life should reflect that too?
Juke him, Carolyn. Juke him. The family loves us here because they're saying Fitness IQ Can says put a wig on to get in.
Oh my God.
Like the ideas are just coming fast and furious here this morning. What? Okay, look at this. Global Women Ambassador. Good morning. Look forward. Okay.